There is someone in your life who has never once apologized to you. Not genuinely, maybe they said the words, but they were hollow, conditional, wrapped in blame. Research suggests that people with narcissistic traits experience apology as a form of psychological death, not discomfort, death. So they don't do it. They can't. And here is the part no one tells you. The way they survive that avoidance is by making you doubt whether you even deserved an apology in the first place. So the question isn't why won't they say sorry? The question is, what are they protecting? And how long have they been using you to protect it? This channel exists to pull back the curtain on the invisible mechanics of human behavior, the patterns most people feel but cannot name. Today's topic is one of those patterns. It sits at the intersection of ego, shame, and control, and it affects nearly every relationship you have ever had. Because the person who never apologizes is not rare. They are your boss, your father, your ex. Sometimes they are you. What you are about to learn is not about blame. It is about understanding a psychological architecture so deeply defended that even the person living inside it cannot see it clearly. When you understand this, your confusion transforms into clarity, and clarity is power. To understand why some people never apologize, you first have to understand what an apology actually requires. It requires you to hold two things at once: the belief that you are a good person and the acknowledgement that you did something harmful. For most people, that tension is uncomfortable but manageable. For others, it is existentially threatening. Psychologists call this fragile, high self-regard. The self-image is inflated, but it is brittle. One crack, and the whole structure collapses. So the mind builds walls, thick ones. Consider the case of Robert McNamara, US Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. He spent decades refusing to acknowledge his role in decisions that cost hundreds of thousands of lives. When he finally did speak about it, in the documentary The Fog of War, he was in his 80s. He admitted he had been wrong. But watch his face when he says it. He does not look relieved. He looks like a man being slowly disassembled. That is what apology costs someone whose identity is fused with being right. It is not stubbornness, it is survival instinct. The ego treats accountability the way the body treats a knife. It bleeds. And bleeding people do not lean into the blade. They pull away, they deflect, they attack. Here is where the psychology gets precise. Researchers June Price Tangney and Rhonda Deering spent years studying the difference between guilt and shame. On the surface, they look like the same emotion. They are not. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. That distinction changes everything. People who experience guilt can apologize. The action is separate from the self. They can examine the behavior, own it, repair it. But shame-prone individuals fuse the action with their identity. To admit wrongdoing is to confirm their deepest fear about themselves, that they are fundamentally flawed, defective, worthless. The brain does not tolerate that, so it reroutes. It externalizes. Suddenly, the argument was your fault. You provoked them. You are too sensitive. You misremember what happened. This is not always calculated. Sometimes it is completely unconscious. The mind is protecting the person from a collapse it genuinely cannot survive. But here is the dark edge of this. Once someone learns that externalizing shame works, that they can make you carry the weight they refuse to hold, they use it over and over. Not because they planned it, because it relieves the pressure. And relief neurologically speaking, is a reward. The behavior gets reinforced, it becomes automatic, and you become the release valve for a psychological system that was broken long before you arrived. Now here is where it becomes dangerous for you specifically. People who cannot apologize have, often unconsciously, developed a system for exploiting one of your most human needs, your need for resolution. You want the loop closed. You want to be heard. You want the relationship restored. That desire is not weakness. It is a sign of emotional health. But in the hands of a chronic non-apologist, it becomes leverage. They learn that if they withhold resolution long enough, you will begin to negotiate with yourself. You will wonder if maybe you overreacted. Maybe you were too harsh. Maybe you owe them an apology. And sometimes you apologize first, just to end the silence. That is the moment they have been waiting for. Not consciously, but structurally. Your apology confirms their internal narrative. They were right. You were the problem. And the cycle resets. There is a term for this dynamic, DAVO: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. It was coined by psychologist Jennifer Freud. The person who caused harm denies it, attacks you for bringing it up, and positions themselves as the real victim. It is devastatingly effective because you entered the conflict with good faith. And good faith has no defense against a system built entirely on self-preservation. The way through this is not to match their aggression. It is to stop seeking resolution from someone structurally incapable of offering it. You do not negotiate with a locked door. You find another exit. Now here is the reframe. The thing that changes everything said so far. You have been watching someone who never apologizes and wondering what is wrong with them. Or worse, what is wrong with you. But consider this. The person who cannot apologize lives in a kind of invisible prison. Every relationship they have is quietly contaminated by this inability. They cannot experience the relief that comes from genuine accountability. They cannot access the depth of connection that vulnerability allows. They are permanently defended, and permanent defense is permanent isolation. They will never feel what you feel after a real apology. That release, that closeness, that return. They have traded the full range of human intimacy for the illusion of invulnerability. Remember the open loop from the beginning. What are they protecting? They are protecting a self that they built, often in childhood, to survive an environment that taught them that being wrong meant being unlovable. The armor made sense then. It is destroying them now. That does not mean you stay. That does not mean you absorb the damage. But it means the behavior was never really about you. It never was. You were just the nearest available mirror, and now you know how to step out of the frame. If this gave you language for something you have been feeling without words, that is exactly what this channel exists to do. Drop a comment below. Tell me one relationship where this clicked for you. If this reached you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is the kind of content you will want to come back to. New revelations every week. Until then, I'll see you in the shadows.